Economic development, economic development, economic development. Is your strategy different than what we've seen before?
Oh, no question. First of all, I think we've got to change the way we do business for small business, and we've got to re-engineer City Hall for small business and for development to make sure that those business people can get the projects in the ground and do it in the proper way with neighborhood support. So that's going to be a different way than we do business. Second is we've got to bring in the big businesses in town, the AT&Ts. I think California is ripe for picking, okay? There are pieces of fruit ready to fall to the ground. We just need a chief sales officer, and that's what I think the mayor should be, to go pluck those pieces of fruit. And then the third thing is we've got to make sure the southern sector can be what it can be. There's excitement happening already, and we need to fan those flames and to make sure that the southern sector can be truly a game changer. We can fit the city of Atlanta inside the southern sector. Can you imagine what we would be if we had Atlanta on one side of the Trinity and North Dallas on the other side? We've got to make sure that we create an environment for that capital to come forth. We've got to do a better job of education and helping the families there, because there is some flight right now. They're going to Lancaster and Duncanville because of housing. So we need to be a better marketer for these folks and say, come on, what do you need? We will provide that housing. We'll provide the better schools. Stay with us, because that human capital is very talented.
Sounds like that would take money.
It's going to take money, but you know what? It takes organization. That's what we really need. We need somebody that has re-engineered businesses and brought the right leaders and leadership to the task at hand. Hold people accountable in a 3-year process. Every quarter, get them to report, and to make sure. And if you do it that way, you can change the world. If your goals are in the right place and your heart's in the right place.
Economic development, is your plan different than what we've seen in the past?
We've changed the way we've done economic development over the last couple of years, and we need to continue to do that. It used to be that we were not very proactive. We waited for business to come to us. As I got on the council and as I chaired the Economic Development Committee, we've taken a proactive stance. We didn't wait for AT&T to decide, well, maybe we'll move to Dallas one day. We went to them, we showed them from a business perspective why it was important for them to be here, why it would be better for their business to be in Dallas, Texas. And that's what caused them to move here. We did the same with Comerica Bank. We've also done the same on a regional basis. One of the examples are we had an opportunity to retain 150 Deloitte jobs downtown while they had 700 in Irving. And so instead of just trying to retain the 150, we made them a deal to where we've got all the jobs in downtown Dallas right now. We didn't used to do those things. We sort of sat back and waited for it to happen. We've reached out internationally. We've moved 50 international companies to Dallas, Texas. They're hiring local people. They're adding to our economy. So we need to keep doing that sort of outreach. And if we do it, we do have a good story to tell. But nobody's going to come here unless we tell the story.
In your role as mayor in economic development, do you see yourself going on a lot more marketing trips or working in a different way with the chamber, or how do you?
Well, I think we have to continue to go out and sell the city of Dallas. There have been, of the trips that we've made, I would consider them very, very successful. We brought back more than it cost us, so to speak. When you move a business here, and it's a multi-million-dollar business, and so you spend a couple $1,000s on a trip to go, that's money that's well invested. But again, one of the innovative things that we've done over the last, I think, 3 or 4 years is that instead of using city funds for that, we've gone to the private sector, and we've said we'd like corporate donations and private donations to fund travel for the mayor and the council, as long as it's prudent, oriented to building the economy of the city of Dallas. And they have gladly stepped up and said, we'll do it as long as it's being used correctly and going for a good cause, we'll do it.
Chief, what's your top priority if elected mayor, and how will you make it happen?
Well, my top priority, and this sounds too simplistic probably, but it really is improving the lives of the people who live in Dallas. Everything I do, I want to feel that it's going to make things better for the people who live in this city and pay taxes here. I was at 2 groups last night, and in each of them I asked, and these were big groups, 150 and probably 170 people, and they were different. One was in Preston Hollow, the other was in Northeast Dallas, and one was in a very, very affluent neighborhood, one was more of a middle-class neighborhood. But asked who in those rooms worked for big corporations, and not a single person raised their hand. Ask who has benefited in their business in any way from a tax abatement. Nobody raised their hand. And the only reason I want to do that, not that you don't use those tools, but they shouldn't be the sole economic development tool, because it fails to recognize that most of what happens in the city is done through small businesses and people who've had to compete, and they've competed in a free market, and if they didn't get any kind of subsidy or help at the expense of one of their competitors. And so I think if you do that, you can look at those kind of make those decisions differently over time, you'll see more revenues in the budget.
Is that what you mean by more organic economic development?
Yes. What I see works the best, not just in Dallas, but cities throughout the country, are areas that you can argue are organic. They're small enough in scope that people feel comfortable going there and celebrating city life with other people. And typically they're developers who've been working in those areas for long periods of time, who kind of have a grand vision of what they are trying to accomplish. They do it in cooperation with the neighborhoods and respect the historical parts, but at the same time, when you do that, you in many cases have to get greater density around major streets and transit areas. And I guess I'm talking a lot, but fundamentally I think the future of Dallas isn't trying to be a better Frisco than Frisco is.
Economic development, what's your strategy? Do you have a bring them in or grow them up?
I mean, if you look at all of the southern sector, which includes the Oak Cliff and the South Dallas Fair Park and on all of that section, I mean, the population there is more than 500,000. Most American cities are not 500,000 people. But this is a city that don't even have reasonable grocery store, no container store, no office, Kunkle's, FedEx. I mean, basic services. And we keep talking about recruiting. Of course the big ones will come because Dallas represents a central region with a reasonable real estate cost to doing business as well as taxes. So they will come whether we like it or not. Of course we're going to keep wowing them. But remember, if you want to make a bonfire, you need a little fire. You need to light a little fire because that is what will make the big fire come. So in economic development, I have a program where I'm going to create a church economic development initiative with the southern sector, especially the Hispanic and the African American, because church is important in their life. I will mobilize about $200 million in 1 year as an equity fund that they will own, and they will use that equity fund to leverage certain developments in their community, because that will give them more a sense of participation and involvement. Because right now, for you to do economic development, it's going to come down to the equity. And there are so little big players in that they don't have $1 million in equity to put in. But if they have a fund that they have contributed, and then say, we want a grocery store that is of this caliber, of this standard, then we have our own collective fund. We say, okay, what does it take for Whole Foods to come in? Central Market, Office Kinko's, container store, good restaurant. Do you know there is no 5-star or even 3-star to 5-star restaurant in all of southern sector? And the African American convention to this city is one of the biggest.
This equity fund, the churches and church members
yes.
would be the contributors? Would you seek also outside monies from
yes,
interested parties?
Because this becomes a magnet. Because, you know, in economics, as opposed to science, money attracts itself. So if you have $1, it's likely to attract another $1. But you have to have $1. And so the challenge of, oh, you don't have equity,